guys, this is Asteria, and Mafia Hamster is joining me today. We are discussing two chapters, chapter 10.38E and 10.39YN after Pirate's long break. So we're getting back into volume 10 after the whole palace arc, and we're seeing what the fallout is. We're checking in with other characters and plot lines. And we're going to start out with general impressions. Mafia Hamster, you want to take it away with 10.38 or 10.39?
Yeah, gladly. 10.38 had, of course, the hamster, so it was the superior chapter, although both were good, of course. It hurts seeing Eren like this, and I kinda also appreciate it. I never liked a Mary Sue character, and Eren really is hurt. You can see that in everything she does. And normally she would have like laughed about the kidnapping and like would have joined in the play, whatever this was. But now she did go on full on Black Ops on those guys. And my goodness. Yeah. She was told they're just a bunch of kids who doesn't know better, and now they have been taught the real world a bit. All in all, the chapter was great. Of course, the hamster was the best part when they are falling, and the hamster was avoiding fall damage with hamster martial arts, or whatever that was. And to the other chapter, it's always nice to see more of the new world. It's like an expansion of an MMO. Everything is new. Some is dangerous, and some things are wondrous. That was nice to see. We got a bit more information about cultivation. That's also nice. And yeah, all in all, I enjoyed both chapters.
All right, we also got some leveling in there in the second chapter. It's always nice to see different skills and classes coming together. Okay, so we've got some thoughts from Bleach Soul and Writing Quill. We'll get to you in turn. So as you guys are giving feedback and general impressions about the chapters, think about maybe one thing you really liked, maybe one thing that you thought could have been improved on or better. If you had no critiques, give it a 10 out of 10 and just tell us what you loved. And then also let us know which chapter you're talking about when you're doing your feedback. All right, Bleach Soul, you're up first.
All right, I'll start first with 38. Yeah, I actually liked both chapters, but I'll start with 38, and I really liked it. I liked like Eren is not well and is dealing with stuff, and it was really great that was Marsha who made her like realize it and feel guilt instead of all this hatred and anger and depression, everything. So it turned to guilt. So it's great that she's dealing with it. It's the first step. She's not like fully healed yet, and now they will go on a journey. And you know, Erin was John Wick in that kidnapping scenario where she busted everybody's ass. And you know, I got really irritated at Zinni for her dismissal of the attitudes of everybody else, like what they thought about her granddaughter and her gang. Yeah, and you know, I really found it really very good chapter, like good start. And as far as today's chapter, it was also incredible. I love the adventuring part, the exploration part. The silver swords are growing very much on me. I love like Poke Duo and everybody else, even Ilaz, his attitude is changing, and I really like the character development. Nidoran is a character that I liked, but he's getting much I'm liking him much more today because of how he handles the situation. It's not always power that solve issues. You have also to use your brain and I don't know, be respectful for some things. That also solves issues. So that's a huge plus for him. So yeah, all in all, chapter 38 and 39 was really great. Were really great. So I really enjoyed them. Thank you.
Nice. I really enjoyed the horns and touching base with. Sorry, not the horns. I really just enjoyed touching base with Yalaz as well. It was really nice to see them in action and get an update on how they're doing after so long. All right, Edron, any thoughts?
Just do you had favorite moments from both chapters? For me, for example, in 3.9, Yula's bluffing was just awesome to see. The upstanding Chat Knight is now more down to earth.
I think my favorite part of the chapter, today's chapter, like 39, is Rasktooth getting started cultivating like nothing, and thus frustrated everybody else, or at least Piccolina. I thought was hilarious. I also I have also liked how Ilaz manipulated the truth. He gave them the magical artifacts, but he kept the mithril part. So it's it's growth for him. So those 2 points have really been great moments for me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see his development in character, because if you recall, he started doing that, I think, all the way back when he was confronting the merchants, right? That were kind of lying to them and taking advantage of them and pushing. And that's where we really started to see him wrestle with this idea of not telling the entire truth, or, what honor means to him. And it's not just a black and white or, yes or no rule that you follow, or a tenet that you follow. So it's interesting to see his character grow and get nuances.
Yeah, he might. I'm not sure, but if he thinks he's doing a bad job being a knight, he might lose his class. That's just me.
Or it's just maybe another knight, fallen knight, or something like this. Maybe if there's a class like this, because now we see the values that knights normally have tested in the real life. I mean, if everything is okay to be the chivalrous Chat Knight is fine, but now we really see him getting tested on his ethics and morals that he normally has.
It's very much a belief thing, right? And like a sort of no self-doubt thing for a knight class or a princess class, right? We saw that with Leonette. So it'll be interesting to see if his definition of who he thinks he is keeps up, and if his class develops in a good way and keeps the nuances of what a knight class means to him, or if he ends up, and loses the class or becomes a fallen knight of some sort. All right, so lots of cool stuff with the laws. We're going to move on. Red Ink Quill, what were your general impressions? Something you loved about each chapter? Maybe something that didn't quite work for you?
No, I loved both the chapters. I thought Paradava did a wonderful job coming back after the Palace arc. I liked Erin going into the her skill that allows her to interview people with the truth, and it was glitching, and she was seeing two different rags, and she thought the skill was broken. She saw Kevin, she thought the skill was broken, and then she used it to torture someone and get the truth out of them, because torture usually doesn't work at all. It's really poor way of getting information out of people. But if she tortures you and then she asks you in the I forget what it's called, I'm having brain fog, but yeah, if she interviews in that, then she'll know if you're telling the truth or not, which is really interesting. It's kind of like a very dark way of using that skill.
Yep.
I really liked the Yulaz chapter and the Nailrun chapter also. I loved the first part where there were starving with the merchant consortium, and they're eating like they found the tube worms and they were eating those. I liked it a lot. It reminded me of watching Lawrence of Arabia and feeling thirsty when he was going through the desert. Like I felt hungry reading about that first chapter, and this newest chapter was like very interesting, where he's got to negotiate on very uncertain ground with a lot of problems. He's got a whole bunch of people that he needs to get food for, and there's all kinds of threats, and he he uh he decides to take the mithril spearheads and like swords and stuff, and I thought that was really cool. I also like Pacona's new class with the charms. It reminds me of the Palace of Fates, Liscore, the City of Charms. Maybe Pacona is going to be the one that introduces that to Liscore. I don't know. It's just really fascinating to me. Also like Nailrin. Even though he escapes the ghost, he doesn't stop. He tries to put them to rest, and he tries to communicate with them, and then he ends up getting one of the ghosts to follow him in like a canvas spoon. I was a little uncertain on that, but I really like that he got he got a bunch of skills, because you always get a bunch of skills when you get a new class, and Pacona got a bunch of new skills also. And I liked the Rat's Tooth getting like the really funny cultivating class. It was I forget what it was called, but it was just really funny. It was like, sludge core class or something. It was just really funny. He's like, oh, it was very easy, and he can meditate anywhere he wants to, because he's just riding on the shoulders of his Antinian buddy. Yeah, I really like these two chapters. I love them. Yeah.
But what do you do as a cultivator with only one leg?
Well, he's not just with one leg. He's paralyzed, isn't he? So he's paralyzed with the waist down. So maybe if he cultivates, he can unlock his lower lower chakra and regain the use of his legs. That's what I was thinking. And then if you could teach the Rags tribe when they come to the new lands about cultivating, because maybe the new lands are like some kind of cultivating paradise. I just thought it was just so interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if he'll regain the use of his legs, but if you're just cultivating, right, you can. There's new. I mean, the whole point of skills is that they explore and do new things in groundbreaking ways. So I'm sure it doesn't need the use of his legs to be able to manage that. Or if he does, he'll trailblaze a new path, so to speak.
Yeah.
From Bleach Soul, go ahead.
I was just thinking that cultivating is also about healing your body and purifying your body. So if he does potty cultivation, he would definitely gain some regenerative abilities and be able to regenerate the use of his spine and be able to walk again. I wasn't thinking that like he has to have his legs in order to cultivate.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking that he would cultivate and regain the use of his legs. Yeah.
Possibly. It'll be interesting to see how that works as a skill and if that's a feasible development. But it definitely has promise.
It makes me wonder. Oh, sorry, just one more thing. It makes me wonder what books Paradaba was reading for reference, because I want to know so I could read them also if I haven't already read them.
I'll have to see if they'll do a shout out as to some of their recent inspirations.
Yeah.
Bleach Soul shares that the timeline is confusing to them. They know chapter 10.39 is happening pre-Palace of Fates, but how long before? So I think that is something that is a little confusing, because we spent so long on Palace of Fates. Sort of where is that happening amongst all these other storylines? I will say that I think the day 49, day 42 stuff isn't necessarily to keep us on track with the timeline, but it's almost like an adventure journal, right? I don't know if you guys remember learning about them in history class as little kids, or looking at old adventurer diaries or captain's logs, but that's what that really reminds me of, and I wonder if that's what the purpose of that is. But I really enjoy that. Go ahead.
Or back then with Raken, it also was also Captain Days, if I recall.
Yeah. So Leafum says 10.39 seems to be before the wand incident, so you can kind of maybe use that Bleach Soul as a point in sort of time or of the timeline of where we're at. Kinea says they still think that the beginning of the chapters are very often too slow, even for setup. In 10.38, with the re-exploring of the village, and in 10.39 with Nailrin, whom they didn't even remember at first, it makes them skim really good parts, or really good pieces of those parts. Apart from that, 10.38 they really liked a lot. From the kidnapping onward, it explored quite well Erin's state of mind, and they enjoyed that part and her finally properly talking with Mishra and Leonette. They still think Erin being a witch of remorse isn't quite right. They don't think she should be so especially remorseful, but they think it could help her later for feeling remorse in others, which could be important for her or help others atone when they should. For 10.39, they thought it was a decent chapter, but a bit worse. In their view, they like the character dynamics in the tower exploration, and they think that the characters were developed pretty well. They found themselves caring more about them, even if the exploration itself was a little bit bland. The ghost part was really good for Nailrin. That last part developed him quite a lot and made them finally care about him. Apart from that, though, it could end up being a good introduction if the ghosts are an integral part of the new lands. I agree. I was a little bit thrown in trying to remember who some of the characters were in 10.39. I have the wiki open, usually as a reference, and type in character names, trying to place them in my head sometimes when it's been a bit since we've touched base with them. I think that the long introductions are just sort of maybe Pirate's writing style. Feel free to disagree with me on this. I can't remember the last time where we kind of opened a chapter immediately in the middle of the action, didn't quite know what was going on, and had to figure out how we went. But I think the longer intros are also Pirate maybe developing their ability with setting and adding in scenery and description. And as they get more practice, it'll get, it'll get maybe a little bit better. I don't necessarily have an issue with the long intros, but Edgeron, what are your thoughts about kind of maybe how long it takes to what you feel like is the action of the chapter versus being thrown in or like the introductions? Like, did you feel like it's a little bit on the longer side? Do you like the length, or do you feel like didn't even notice it?
I totally agree with you. For me, it's mixed. I don't mind the long introductions because that's a staple of Pirate. When it's characters that I more enjoy, if we have more introductions, a more longer setup with the horns or Eren or all the other characters, I don't really mind because I just like them and like them. But no, what was Norin? No, I have already forgot the name. Is a character I personally don't really care about that much. So if we spend so much time with a character, you don't. Maybe it's other people care maybe a bit more, but I personally didn't really. If we spend so much introduction with that character, it becomes a bit. Yeah, okay. It's a bit like homework or just you read the setup, but you just think, okay, when is the meat of the story really starting? I mean, before we met the Silver Swords, it was a lot before we even met the Silver Swords in this chapter. And,
yeah, it was. And
again, if it's other characters like Eren or Horns, I don't really mind, but not with characters I don't. When they're really, really really off-side characters, I don't think it has to be that long. But that's just my opinion.
I think there's a balance, right? Because Pirate is really great about making us care about characters, even for like, oh, I don't know this character, or oh my gosh,
True.
one new character. But then we fall in love with them and we're like, wait, we want to be with that character for a while.
True.
So it's a delicate balance because there are so many side characters now, and I wonder if, like, with the horns, or sorry, I keep saying horns, if with Yaw's adventuring group, if with his group, it's less about the point of view of the character that we're in and more about the overall story and the action that's taking place. So this is just a thought, because there is a writing technique where it doesn't matter, like, the character isn't as important as just the point of view. And we
Mhm.
might be jumping around from character to character, but the whole point is the story that's being conveyed, or the plot that's
Yep.
being conveyed. And I wonder if that was what was going on with that adventuring chapter. Not that we really necessarily care, or, like, maybe we like Nailrin, but we may not come back to him as his point of view, but it was more that his point of view was the important one to tell the story that was supposed to be conveyed in 10.39.
It's a good point. Martin does this all the time in Song of Ice and Fire. Just a random character give us the viewpoint of the situation we are in right now. It's a good point.
Yeah, it'll be. I know it seems like Pirate's always trying out sort of slightly new writing techniques. So I wonder if that's kind of what's going on there. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it, but it might be fun to have a chapter that starts just straight in the middle of the action, and we're like, what is happening? And we have to kind of pull together the details to sort of figure out what's going on with kind of the chaos. All right, but let's see. So Leafum says they think Leonette's initial hostile behavior in 10.38 was odd. It took her 2 conversations to notice that Erin's burn scars and tattered, miscolored hair, which completely took the wind out of her sails and made her consider Erin's situation. They know she said she was wanting to punish Erin for being so out of touch for so long and for not being there when the palace happened, but it's strange to them that it took her so long to see how bad Erin looked. I think that's incredibly based on timing. So we know that Leonette has been through a lot. She was upset and angry that her partner, right, for the inn, because essentially I think they're partners at this point rather than Erin being completely in charge, hadn't communicated with her. She was worried about her. She'd been trying to be in touch for a while with no response. And then she, lost her daughter and kind of gained her back, but she's got to be dealing with all the stuff with the palace. So
And the
I feel like I can
stuff.
understand. Yeah, and so, like, she doesn't quite know what's happening with Erin, and I can absolutely understand her not immediately, like, seeing everything that's going on with Erin, because she's just been through hell. She's been through her own blowing up slavery ships and pirates and whatever that Erin kind of went through previously. I think that makes complete sense. Actually, I was surprised that she didn't go after Erin more despite Erin's scars, because Leonette's like, where the hell were you? I've just been through XYZ. And once Temper's cool, I think it would make sense that they would, maybe Leonette would feel bad for reacting the way she did, but the initial emotional rush, I totally get that. That makes sense to me.
I totally agree.
All right, so Edron, you want to take Sidehammer and Samu before we move into discussion questions?
Of course.
Yes, hello, I'm here. Alright. So I had a great time with both chapters. I'm an Aaron stan now, so most of my notes are about Aaron. But I can give you a brief about Nailrin. I like Nailrin and his pride. Um, I did find it a little boring at first, just establishing what everyone was doing. I was wondering where it went, where we were going, but then I caught on with the. I had a feeling that he wasn't just having war sight, as they called it, flashbacks. So and then the reveal of the scream and everything that was done very well. I feel that was particularly well written and all that. I liked the silver sword bit. Elod's Elod's having to shift his perspective on on honor and whatnot, and what is stealing, what is you know what what is his perspective, or shifting his own, or what is his own, uh, you know, where are his boundaries anymore now that he's been through all this stuff. It's a big ask for, especially for a guy like Elos who grew up, you know, this is the way, we follow the rules, and I mean his past, even like his past and skills would even set him up, but even his past sometimes mocked him for his straightforwardness, so now he's actually being rewarded for uh, thinking outside the box and thinking other ways. So I feel it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite stuff happened with Aaron, as it always does. Um, I personally love seeing Aaron be the Terminator. It is awesome as hell. It's just I get giddy and stuff like that. I know it's not good for her, and she hates it, and I do feel bad for her for that. But anytime that people learn that Aaron is more than she puts
Mm-hmm.
forward, is just my favorite thing. When everyone was scared, like, okay, I get that you're. It's like they come up to someone like being blasé about Aaron. They're all like, okay, I feel you, but no, Aaron is going to fuck you up. You really need to appease her right now, and that is
I
just
totally agree.
yeah. That is just my favorite. I mean, they just Ultimate did it. They're like, okay, I'm scared. I'm terrified. I'm terrified. Oh, these are good kids. Oh shit, Aaron is going to fucking murder them. I have to stop this now, or Aaron won't come back. And I love that. It was so good. And then she did what we all expected to. Um, I felt as if it was written in such a way that it was almost like an equation. It was, if x equals this and y equals this, then z has to be this. So, like, x is if Aaron is not, or if x is Ultima is kidnapped, doesn't matter by whom, and Aaron is, B or, or y, uh, going or not there, then the z is Aaron is going to get there through anything. So it felt like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so when it came to torturing her, uh, torturing the kid and getting, and all that, it felt as if Aaron had to go through the motion of it, or it felt like Pirate had set up this thing so so solidly that there was no way that Aaron couldn't do these actions, and therefore she was like, or, I don't know, it felt it was a given. Like I knew what was going to happen way before it, and I was so ready for it, but it was also like telegraphed to the nth in a way. Like it felt as if Pirate would had to follow the script. They were a prisoner to their own writing. Like, well, this stuff had to happen. This is how Aaron would react. This is how Aaron would react at this time. And so they had like felt almost like there was an impossible force driving what was happening. And I thought that was really cool. So I really enjoyed that. I loved Aaron coming out, kicked those kids' asses, as we all knew he would. Um, I did like. There were some other parts that were great as well. I think this might be the first time that Ultima has ever um, mentioned Aaron as her chieftain, in her own head, which is really cool for me. Uh, I think we saw that we learned that Mercy is on Belarus. I don't think we had learned that. Um, and then I find it funny, found it pretty funny in the later part of the chapter, uh, giving giving the Ultima Aaron shippers, feeding the shippers at all was very silly, and I think they'll come to regret that. um, oh, and my notes here
I would
say
still
that
fight that ship with all I have.
yeah, I know. But then there was one final note I had here was I'm worried that Infinity Pair is annoyed with Rastive cultivating on top of him. I thought there was a paragraph where that was, I thought it was kind of particular. Then I think this is the first bit of friction I think we've seen with the Poke duo, and I'm worried about that because they're lovely together, and I don't want anything ever to happen to them. They're so precious. And I think that's it. I'll let you.
Yeah. But maybe I think it was just a spur of the moment thing that one is walking and the other has time to sleep.
Yeah, I think that was
So it was probably just an annoying spur of the moment thing. These two are just perfect together, and yeah, I know what you mean. And the way you described what happens to Erin, or when people meet her and see that there's more to her, it's I totally agree. That's what I love about progression. If you compare the small frightened girl who is afraid of fish that hurts her, or afraid of like 5 puny goblins, and now look what she did. She really was a goddamn Terminator in this moment. Okay. Thank you. And next up is who's next up?
Samuel.
Samu is up.
Yeah, thank you. I think there a lot has been said about both chapters. I also enjoyed both. On the whole, I want to focus in on, I think, the two aspects of the chapters I like the most, and that is now that Erin is a little bit of a, let's say, unreliable main character in a sense, because she is in story, and it's really nice to have this Olvama viewpoint. I think she's a really cool character in general to have the viewpoint of, and in 38 we really see not just her more vulnerable side that we've seen a lot on Belarus. She was saved by Erin and stuff like this, but also her more aggressive side. She's a goblin and she has a backstory. She's not a lady who's just good at social manipulation. She also can hold her own in more physical confrontations, I think, and that's really nice to see from her point, I think, and she got the level for it, I guess. Yeah, and I enjoy her viewpoint and how it's written, I think. Yeah, that's for 38. A lot of the other stuff has been said, I think. And for 39, I want to break a lance for Neirin because I really like the character. I've reread some of the previous chapters of his. Like, I think there's the one where the horns and him go towards the meeting of tribes in volume 9, and I think, and already Pirates started developing the character more there, and Neirin in general has been with us for quite a few volumes. I think he was one of the first teams that arrived at Liscor a lot of volumes back comparatively, I think. And I really enjoy his character in general. We really see in 39 that he has been like this secret chieftain class of his is really that he really was a secret operative, that he murdered people and hid the bodies and stuff like this. And I think that's one part of it, that he's kind of a badass, even if he's not that high level in the current story, at least. But he's getting there, I think. He's over 30 already. And also his second class, of course, and that he's also really smart character. There's also in volume 9 where he talks to Syria about stuff. And I think, and in general, he's a very insightful character into a lot of things because of his secret chieftain class, into like the social issues of trade cities and knolls and stuff like this. But also, yeah, I really like him and how he approaches things, and that he's kind of he's a cool character that's pragmatic in a sense and smart. And I think, yeah, I just really enjoy him. So I think my feeling is that he's not just some character and that he's gonna stick around for a lot longer, especially now that he's gotten a second class. Exactly. Yeah, that's basically the two things that I enjoyed most, I think, of both chapters, the viewpoints of Ovama and Naren even. And I also like about the Silver Swords, Yulas has this, the past few chapters, he has this anger cropping up here and there in like one paragraph per chapter. And I think knowing Yvonne, there's gonna be something about the anger with him as well. And I really enjoy. I think it was just one sentence in this chapter where this came up again, but there is something going on. Like I want to see him cleave apart a golem with his anger once, or something like this. I'm probably something more intricate and smarter, because Pirate is better than that in writing. But yeah, those are, I think, the things that I took away from those chapters.
Anger issues lie in the family.
Exactly. Yeah, that's everything for me.
Thank you so much.
Very
Go
good
ahead, sorry.
points. Very good points. Especially, it was a good idea of yours to reread the other chapters. Maybe I should have done this as well, and I would have more enjoyed the first part of 3.9. That was a good idea. And the comment about Obama, that she's more than a social manipulator, when she choked out the kid. Yeah, that was heavy. But Obama is awesome. Yep.
All right. Thanks for sharing general impressions, everyone. Those were some fantastic thoughts about both chapters. We're going to move into specific discussion questions now. The first one up is about Ovama. Ovama is on the cusp of her level 40 capstone. What will her personal revelation be? And will she decide to accept the role of Goblin Lord for the power or continue without? So remember that level 40 kind of requires a revelation of sorts, right? Something about your character that you have to acknowledge, something about yourself, and you can't kind of get over that cap until you sort of have that self-realization. So what do you guys think? What do you think is going to be her personal revelation? Where is that going to go? Mafia Hamster, any thoughts?
Yes. Maybe Obama, she seems to me like the person who is pretty much she pretty much is put together. She already accepted that Aaron is her chieftain, that the human is her chieftain. That's pretty much a big revelation, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if level 40 just comes easier to her, because there are some characters who are so mentally developed and know who they are that it's probably not in asterisk a huge thing for them to just do what they're doing as well. A revelation. Ovama would never become a goblin lord. She is a shaman. That's what she is. That's who she is. She is a shaman for the innkeeper tribe. And I think that's what she is. That's her part, and she knows that. It wouldn't surprise me if, again, level 40 wouldn't be a huge hurdle for her. I mean, Aaron's other characters struggle with that stuff, but Ovama pretty much knows who she is.
Right, but it's about sort of seeing yourself in a different way, right? So you can know yourself really well, but don't you kind of have to twist it? Or like we saw this with the goblin who is a knight, right? And his whole dual, I think this was his level 40 thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought this was the whole dual like aura stuff he ended up with. But so it's not about just knowing yourself really well, but it's also about like knowing where you want to go. I think. Leafum says that Erin had that fight with Torin for hers. Maybe I'm thinking level 50 rather than level 40. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. It's been a while since we've kind of looked at kind of the specifics of what come with big level ups. Samu.
I think
Sorry,
you're
go
right.
ahead.
You're right. Level 50 is an extraordinary feat, and level 40 is more of the revelation thing, if I remember correctly. I think
Okay.
you're right.
Okay. Leafum says there's one for 42, but it's smaller than 50. So maybe it is 50. I lost track of all the levels at this point and what happens when. But yeah, I think with every big capstone, right? Level 30, 40, 50, there's some new way of seeing yourself, but maybe what I'm describing is more level 50 than level 40. But it'll be interesting to see what path Obama continues to take with her leveling, because I think we're in the phase now where everyone is leveling quite quickly with all the challenges that are going on. Samu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you realize that I am a little bit of a fanboy of Obama already. But yeah, I think probably that the change that she has to do is not as big as the Erin thing for her level 50. But I think she is gonna step up more in this role that we've seen her so far to really link herself mentally to Erin, but not just be the meek second in that relationship, but also also step up in the same way that she stepped up against Marta and told her, that's not going to go well. And I think that's kind of the moment we're gonna see from her, that she's both someone Erin can rely on in terms of a person to talk to and everything, but also someone who can step up if needed with some level of maybe physical might, or where she has to put her foot down in some way to make a situation go away, where Erin's kind of suicidal fighting prowess doesn't help really in the coming chapters. And I think that's more or less that she accepts that role a little bit, where she also finds moments where she stands in front of Erin, where it's not just Erin tanking all the physical dangers, but Udama realizing that's the moment I can step up for Erin and I'm good enough for this. And I think that's she's a little bit afraid of level 40s, I think, or that she realizes that level 40 is a big step to make. And I think that's what when she starts facing off with other level 40s in a sense, mentally and where she is, then that's going to be her level 40 switch.
Interesting. So you mean she was called the anchor of Erin, that she is her anchor? And you mean that she goes down this path even more as an anchor?
I think less anchor as more like Lionette stepped up in the end. Obama is gonna find a role around Erin, like in a sense, but more of a role of her own. Like Lionette has her role now in the end, even if it's still not perfectly figured out with Erin, because Erin is never there. But Obama, it's more like, how can I be the shaman for Erin? Like, I'm not just a shaman for Goblin Tribe anymore. How can I be both the magic user and the emotional, an emotional being close to Erin in a sense, and be there for her in a good way?
Oh, that's interesting. Not a shaman just for goblins, but a shaman for a human. That has to be different. Interesting. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Mafia?
No, I just the next person.
Okay, well, real quickly, Sidehammer says, agreeing with Samu, Erin needs people who challenge her as well as support her. Less anger and more partner. And then Red and Quill is up.
Yeah, I actually might be different than other people in this, is that I think Obama has already had a revelation. She just needs the experience to cross the mark. She has the opposite problem of Rags, who hadn't had a revelation but had tons of experience. The reason I think that is because Obama has been a victim mentality because she's been kidnapped and possibly sexually assaulted before. Uh, and she gets kidnapped here and they want to have sex with her. And she uh, gets the leader alone and puts a garrote around their neck and negotiates her release and negotiates uh communication with the village that she's okay. And then when Aaron comes and Aaron is going crazy, it's Obama is the one that steps up and chokes her out from behind with a chokehold until she calms down. And then later, when she's in the village, uh, Obama is telling the stories of Aaron, and they have a really good back and forth about it, and they have a very good partnership. So I think Obama has gone from a different way of working with her chieftain, because she's worked with Trimbarag and she's worked with Rags, and she kind of just managed Trimbarag because she like manipulated him, but Rags, didn't want to put up with Obama really at all, even though she was high level, because Obama was like too like
Manipulative.
too manipulative. And I think that we don't see so much. We see a soft touch from Obama getting Aaron to dance, which is really good for depression. Um, but we don't see that like actively mean-heartedly manipulating her. It's a very good partnership. She's confiding in her. Uh, she's a very and I think it was the leader of the rancher thought that Obama was Aaron's special person, like her love interest, even though Aaron hasn't seen it yet. So I think that maybe Obama has already had a revelation, a different way of working with the chieftain, a different way of negotiating when she's being put into a victim position. And I think that she's already like had the revelation. She just needs the experience now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically what. Yeah, I even agree. I wholeheartedly agree. It's what I've also said, that Obama already knows who she is, and
Yeah.
it's I can see that as well. I can see that. Yes.
Right, so going hand in hand with Obama, what do you guys think will make Aaron normal again? So a large part of 10.38 was Aaron kind of working through everything that's happened and dealing or not dealing, as she hasn't really been dealing with what happened. And Obama's been trying to get her to face that while not falling into a complete funk again. So do you guys think that Aaron will get back to being Aaron, or do you think we're going to see a completely different side of her, maybe something that's a little bit more restrained, a little bit harder to connect with people, right? We kind of know her as this character that's very, like, she's very private, but she opens up to people. She has a very definitive view of right and wrong. Doesn't really look at sort of in between or grays very well. Do you think she'll step up to the world stage? Do you think she'll take a step back? Sidehammer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I would love for Aaron to just, snap your fingers and get back to it. There is no back to it. There is only forward through grief. You are ever changed by it, and it is something that will stick with you for forever. So, unfortunately, there is no going back to what Aaron was before. She has simply lost too much. But there is always forward, and um, that is something I'm very compelled to see. I'm sure Pilot could do that wonderfully. But what I see is forwards for her. There's going to be probably a lot of off-screen crying. I hope it's off-screen. I really hate reading angst. it's, well, it's very appropriate for this type of character. Not something I'm particularly you know happy to read about all the time. It could get you down just reading that kind of stuff. So I do think, I mean, this woman came back from the dead. She can come back from this. I mean, she can step forward through this. She's it's going to be as hard as anything is. But I do see Aaron, laughing and dancing, even in the near future. It's just she'll just have to take the time, to feel all the things she needs to feel and to not suppress them. And she'll need time. And after that, she'll be probably a little more closed off in certain things, but probably if depending on how the narrative strikes, uh, she'll be a little more Aaron than she even was before. And yeah, I think that's about it.
It's a good notion to have to that what you said is that it's only forward, not backward, and that's true. It happens too much for her. I think the old Erin died on that ship, or a big part of her died on that ship, and now she has to, yeah, she has to cope. She also has to get see the reality. I think one guardian said you have to get used to be the strongest in the room, or something like this. That's also new for Erin, and that she has to deal with that. And
I think that's a good point too. That
what
she is
what what I hope just comes back is the bit, at least, is that the Erin I a bit fall in love with, the one who makes silly foods and makes them to place, dances Gangang style with the Antinium, is a bit bubbly, dancing on the roof and singing. That was an Erin, and I hope she can come back to that part of her personality a bit. I really like also her new, like, fighting and Terminator side, but but what she needs now is a balance. Back then she was only one part, and now the other side is way too much. There's way too much violence in. She only thinks and solves things with violence right now, and she needs balance.
What I
But
forgot to mention is that Aaron is strong, and
yes,
he will get through this, and we will see that happy part of her. So,
but what does it take?
Other stuff.
But what do you think does it take to get her there?
Oh, I think something will happen with Neri, and they'll have some. There'll be some more. Before she'll have to get a full picture of what's happened before she'll really, break down. I think contacting Kevin will have some part of that, and hearing about, his side of things, and knowing that maybe maybe learn whether or not those visions she was having were real or not of Kevin and more. Talking to her, telling her to let things go, to make sure she doesn't, whether learning those are real or not, seeing if they're asking her, and if they're just part of her mind, and also just learning to let go. I mean, I think the Forgotten Wind could probably have some thought healers if they ever manage to get there. But yeah, I think those will be the most. I think those will be the most prominent signs to, a good step forward. And then throughout the rest of the story, there should be signs that she's still working with it. Personally, I think that's the best way to proceed forward.
Interesting. I personally think she is only getting better when she's back in her inn and is surrounded by a bit more normal instead of living as another species in a part of the world where danger is all around her all the time. I think she needs a bit normal in her life. And that will probably take a while.
You have to remember that, it's been one thing after another since Erin had her
Yes.
little death venture into the Deadlands, right? She came back, she couldn't walk, so she was healing and trying to deal with that. She's very rarely taken time to mentally deal with everything that she's going through.
Mm-hmm.
And then this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably going to be a while, and I agree with Sidehammer. I hope that the moments that we have with Erin where she's working through and dealing with everything are poignant and are purposeful, but the majority of it occurs off scene. When writers do angst, very rarely is it done well. Usually it's overdone, drawn out, goes on just way too long. And it's better to
Ryoka Volume 1.
Yeah, it's better to just offload it and use it for purpose in scenes and character development that count, but kind of we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it could be that this is the new Erin, right? A lot of people would go through stuff like this and never recover or have a completely different personality, right? We saw that with Halrak and everything that he went through, right? He kind of became Halrak the Grim. So
True.
There's also just no telling kind of where Erin's character development is going to go. Leafham says they feel like the gauntlet Erin ran at the end of Volume 9 broke her mask permanently, and we'll see a more sedate and calculating Erin versus the manic pixie innkeeper she pretended to be. Redding Quill says Erin will not return to the Erin of yesteryear. She will maybe negotiate her feelings better and be able to advocate for herself and her friends and allies on the world stage, but she's a different person now. They think that it is children that will help Erin return to her softness, like Mishra. Kanea says, with her being the main character and a lot of her development touching main themes of the story, Erin will keep evolving, they think, but they don't think that she'll remain in the state for too long. The new her will be an evolution of her old self. She still needs a lot of capacity in uniting people and just needs a better feel of managing consequences, and especially they think she needs to be capable of giving proper second chances to everyone and help them through them. They don't know exactly what she will need to evolve, and it will probably be a long process, new crises, and talking with new characters. She needs some help in making up her mind. Short term, maybe meeting with Tom and with the people that come to avenge the King of Humans could be a start. So yeah, there's a lot coming her way, depending on if Pirate continues with the plot lines or sort of wipes the table and we start over with something else. But we have the King of Humans headed her way. We've got all these other characters on Balaros. It could be a very long time, Mafia Hamster, before Erin gets back to her inn, if ever. It does feel more like Leonette's inn at this point.
Yep.
So, who knows? I would agree with Kaneas in the thought that, Erin's got some major character dev coming her way, but Pirate has flipped the table on us before and, put characters in a completely different setting or scenario. So who knows? I don't know. I can't make a prediction here. I actually don't really know how Erin's development is going to go. Any thoughts, Mafia?
Yeah, just that it's gonna take a while. I just can't wait until the Horns and Erin and everybody is back at the inn. But there's probably a volume or two. It's gonna take a while until everybody's back again, and that's probably what she needs, in my opinion. But yeah, there is a lot of new stuff coming her way. That's true.
Any
Alright.
last thoughts about that question or anything you want to respond to?
No.
All right, then let's do a question about 10.39. So, what are possible ramifications of the recreation of the Deadlands for the Ghosts in the New Lands and Naelrin's new class, right? So we got a lot of cool adventuring stuff going on in 10.39, but I think one of the biggest things was the mention of ghosts, especially when we think back to everything that kind of has been going on with Kara and that princess whose name I can never remember from Ghost Song, right? From the Ghost Song. Yeah, there we go. Seraphil from the Ghost Song series, right? Because we know that both those characters are trying to keep an eye out for ghosts. So having ghosts kind of pop up in these new lands, especially where we know, I think Seraphil made land there, right? Or is she there on Balaros? Where is Seraphil?
She's on Brack. She's on Belarus.
She's on Belarus.
Okay.
Oh, that's true.
So, never mind. She's on Balaros. Our ghosts are in the Newlands, but oh well. Anyway, what do you guys think? We've got ghosts. What are your thoughts? Leafham says Seraphil is with Rabbit Eater on Balaros. All right, Mafia, what do you think? What are some speculations about Naelrin's new class and ghosts in the New Lands and recollection of the Deadlands?
I think that we got a lot more. We got a lot of knowledge about ghosts from Ghost Song. That's true. And Pirate is trying to touch up on that, even with the Noelictus reference to an expert. And it's hard for me to. I mean, ghosts are pretty overpowered. That, at least that what we learned from Ghost Song. Are these the same ghosts? Are they as strong as the ghosts we saw in Ghost Song, or not? That's a big question that has to be answered, I think. And otherwise, what comes, I really have no idea.
Well, speaking of like inspiration earlier, so we ended the chapter with it turned out ghosts were like snails, and I have no idea if Pirate was watching this, but there's a TV series called Ghosts that has a British version and an American version, and there's an episode in the latest season where there's like a ghost snail, and they have this whole episode about ghosts and snails, and I was kind of smiling throughout the mention of that, and I was wondering if that was inspiration in part for this chapter, but it would be kind of a funny thing if that were the case, but that was a total aside. Redding Quill, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that these ghosts or whatever, are not a New Lands thing, because these people have been on the New Lands for months now, and they've interacted with dead bodies and looted them before. What's changed is that the GDI has altered the lands of the dead, recreated Cassignel, and made it a lot better so the gods couldn't intrude. And they also moved all the people that were undeserving of Hellstay out of Hellstay, and I think they might have reconfigured what Hellstay is supposed to be like, or maybe refigured, because they took the body of Iskanthos, and they're able to edit stuff now instead of just like following the instructions. So I think that they reintroduced what it was intended to be, where the real world can interact with the people that are dead. So that's what I think.
So you mean that we will see more ghosts, not only in Newlands, and even on other continents? Or
Yeah, I think we'll see them everywhere. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that could happen.
Sidehammer says it's been a hot minute since they read Ghost Song. Yeah, it's probably been a bit, unless you guys listened to the recent Audible that came out for the last book of the series. But the whole idea, right, is that the Hera and Seraphil were interacting with ghosts in No Lictus and No Lectus, and I think the ghost disappeared at the end, was the basic idea, the basic reference there. Sidehammer says they're not even sure where on the timeline we are with the new chapters, whether before or after the GDI fix or not. Leafham says it's been about a month before the GDI restores Kasignal. Samu, what are your thoughts?
Say that it's probably before it restores Kasignal, but in general, the question is what changed that we have ghosts cropping up so much outside of the Singer of Terranria series, because we've only seen ghosts or something similar once, and I think that was before the winter solstice. And then, like, my questions were also whether how is this related to Namtong's class, or like as a soul bard? What's the difference between like a nice ghost and a soul in that sense? Of course, like ghosts that mutate and are bad are not the souls that Namtong has, but like nice ghosts that are not angry about anything seem very similar. So I would like to say see like something of an interaction when Naren walks around with his ghost in tow, and Nantang does as well. So I would find it really funny if there's like a lot of people who have ghosts with them and they just meet just for all the ghosts to meet or meet their first other ghost for other person. Yeah, that's one thing I've thought about, like how that interacts. And
So,
yeah.
real quickly there. So with Namtong's soul bard thing and then the whole ghosts, did we ever kind of conclude that his souls that were hanging around were a form of, like, they were ghosts, so they were something slightly different? Because we know that with Aaron's Inn, right, the statues weren't ghosts, but they kind of were connected with, you know, the people who, you know, you're with that they represent. So are his whole soul things, like, are they actually ghosts, or are they something different, or you don't know?
I thought they were kind of records, to be honest, like records from the persons and not really their souls.
I'm not sure about Namtong especially. I think about the others, like for example the admirals people, yes, they are records definitely, and those kind of skills. But the soul bard thing, I'm not totally sure if we've ever seen Pyrite, Swordhild, or Rice in Hellstiff, for example. So that's the thing. I'm a little bit confused. That's also part of why that's a really weird thing to like separate ghosts and souls, because in that case it's really not clear to me what exactly is what and how what exactly is the difference, because I think the goblins did stay around in Erin's Inn and defended her from one of the gods. That's why Rice thing was that's why Rice was not complete when he first joined Namtong. And that's why I think they are kind of real in a sense, and not just records, because records wouldn't have just turned up without a skill to defend Eren against the gods, because it wasn't just Rice but also others. He's just the only one who stuck around.
So we definitely need some ground rules for ghosts, souls, and maybe different kind of ghosts and skills. And yeah, it's true. We need a few answers about all of that before we can even like theorize and speculate. Because it's at this point it's all a bit washy, I think. Or maybe I'm not didn't pay attention enough. But
I'm not. Sorry if I just
No.
one thing to that. I think it's it's not that terrible to not know what's going on there. It's just because if they I don't think everything needs to be explained, especially in the Wandering Inn. It's not meant to be explained. Not everything is meant to be explained clearly, but it's just something to wonder about. Because I think if we expect every little technicality to be explained, we're gonna have another million of words, just paragraphs here and there explaining increasingly detailed technicalities like this. It was just, I think it's a curious thing to think about. If it ever comes up, that's fine. But I don't think.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sidehammer, did you have another point before we kind of sidetracked into ghosts versus souls versus statues?
No,
Or
man.
sorry. Okay. Or sorry, was that Samu actually?
Not me. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Any final thoughts about this discussion question? Mafia Hamster, anyone else?
Not from me.
All right. Edron, was there another discussion question you wanted to discuss? Or is there anything that we didn't get to that you guys are burning to talk about? If you do, throw it in the reactions and comments. Otherwise, we will go ahead and finish up for today.
I don't have anything right now.
All right. Well, 2 very long chapters. We are heading out of the Palace of Fates and into the wider world. So keep an eye out for the next ACD in a week after we get the next chapter. Hope to see you guys again, and thanks for joining us this time, discussing chapter 3.38E and 10.39 YN with The Wandering Inn. This is Asteria and Mafia Hamster signing off.
Bye.